box. On the Chaf Amid Aleph. We're going to just review again the lashon of the brisa, which we said Abaye pshat. We're up to Rava's pshat, but we're going to just review the by the two dots, 7 lines down, the lashon of the brisa. Tana Rabban, Mifta, the lashon of mevate bitui is a lashon shvua. Iser, the way Abaye says it, is also a lashon shvua. So Gemara, Isor, what's the Isor of the lashon Iser? The first word is a lashon. What's the prohibition of the lashon of Iser? So we say Yamata Aimer Iser Shvua Chayiv. If you say Iser is a Shvua Chayiv, and Lav Potter. So the Gemara immediately asks, what does that mean if you're going to say Iser is a lashon Shvua, then it's Chayiv? Well, you just said the first part of the brisa was that Iser is a lashon Shvua, and then you go say what? It depends if it's a lashon Shvua or not. So in that Abaya explained, it depends. It's when someone is mitvus. Isser is a lashon of mitvus. So it's going to depend on whether this mitvus, meaning that the person is saying, I want this, I want to be like something else. I want today to be like Tzayim Gedalia. I want today to be like my father's yahrzeit, meaning a day that I fast. So the question is, it depends on whether you hold is mitvus b'shvua. If someone makes a shvua by hatfasa, by saying I want this to be like something else, is that treated as if he said the thing directly? If you say it's treated like he said it directly, so you're going to be mechayev if on a carbon oil yared. Remember, all the way back in that first mission, we had that long parsha in the Torah where we said the things that chayiv and oil yared. We spent the first 2 prakim talking about Tumas Mikdash Ugdashav is one of the things that's mentioned, but another thing that's mentioned in the pasuk is kinishba levate b'svasayim, when someone makes a shvua. So, if someone who makes a shvua through the mechanism of hatfasa, is that considered as if he made a shvua, then he's going to be chayiv a carbon, and if not, he's going to be potter. He's not going to bring a carbon. Okay, then Rabbi went into how do you see this from the psukim? He had problems that l'chayra. They say, but however you learn out bitui, you'd also learn out Iser. And now we're saying Iser is a lashon of hatfasa. So the Abaye goes through it and he comes out with the pshat in the psukim. Okay, now we're going to go to Rava. Rava Amar. This is about 15 lines to the bottom. Rava Amar, la'olam emelach. Oh, you're walking in just as we finished the recap and we're about to start the new portions. Okay, so again, to give the one sentence recap, we're on Chaf Amid Aleph. So we had brought the brisa, which Abaye had understood to say that if the lashon Iser, when someone says Iser is hatfasa, so Abaye says it depends on whether it's a machlekes about whether you can learn out from a pasuk that hatfasa, being matvis, attaching what you're what you're trying to make a shvua about to something else. When you say I want this to be treated as that, I want today to be treated as Tzayim Gedalia, meaning I'm making a shvua that I'm not going to eat today, just like I don't eat on Tzayim Gedalia. Is that going to be treated like the original shvua that you bring a carbon oil of a yared for? You bring the carbon for making such a full shvua if he ends up eating on that day. That was Abaye's understanding of of the brisa. Rava Amar, 15 lines from the bottom. La'olam emelach mitzvahs b'shvua lav k'moitzi shvuim b'piv dami. Rava says that this question that Abaye said that when the brisa had said, the brisa at the end of the brisa had said, lav potter, he said that was referring to this question of whether mitzvahs b'shvua, whether someone makes his shvua uses the mechanism of attaching it into something else. That's going to be the question whether that's considered a shvua or not. Rava says no. It's universal. Everyone agrees that mitzvah shua is not like a mitzvah b'shua. It's not going to be chayiv a carbon. V'hachi kamers. Then he's going to have to come up with a different understanding of the brisa. When the brisa first says that a mifta is a shua and iser is a shua, and then we say iser depends. What does it mean? Imata aimer iser shua chayiv imla pata. What does that mean? V'hachi kamer. Mifta shua. Mifta is a shua. Iser nami shvua. The lashon of iser is also a shvua. That's still tracking the brisa, right? The brisa had said mifta shvua iser shvua. Asrei the iser. What is the iser? What is the prohibition of the word iser? Itila kasa benedel shvua. The Torah is putting it. The Torah placed the lashon iser when someone prohibits himself from doing something by using the lashon iser, it's placed between a neder and a shvua. So let's remind ourselves of what a neder and a shvua are. Neder and shvua should be you should enjoy this. A neder is an iser chefza, and a shvua is an iser gavra. A neder is where you say, this object is also to me, or this person's belongings are also to me. I'm not allowed to make use of them. While a shvua is he's saying about himself. He's saying, I am also to do this thing. I'm not going to eat tomorrow. I can't, I do have to eat tomorrow. That's a shvua. So that what the Brisa is saying is that this lashon iser is strategically placed in between a neder and a shvua. And therefore it's going to depend. Haitziu b'lashon neder, if he says, iser, this loaf of bread alai, then it's going to be a lashon neder. It's going to be treated as a neder. The lashon shvua, if he says iser alai lechol, then it's going to be a shvua. What justifies this? The way Rav is understanding the brisa, that when the brisa says imata omer iser shvua chayev emlav potter. If we're saying it's going to be Isser is a shvua, then you're going to be chayiv, and if not potter. Now, I guess I didn't explain this fully. What we just said, it's going to make a difference whether it's going to be a shvua or a neder, and the Brisa said it's going to be whether he's going to be chayiv or potter. And the difference is a neder. There's no the pasuk of by carbon oil of a yared that describes who's chayiv when a person ki nishba levata v'svasayim. He uses the lashon shvua. It only includes a shvua. The carbon oil of yared only applies to someone who makes a shvua. It does not apply to someone who makes a neder. So that's why that's what the Brisa is saying. The Brisa is saying if you said it in lashon shvua, you're going to be chayiv because then it's a shvua and then you're chayiv. But if you say iser in a lashon neder, you're going to be potter from the carbon.
And by a mifta, in other words, the word iser can be interchangeable, but the word mifta can only be for shvua. Is that the difference in the Brisa?
Yeah.
Say it again.
Yes. Lashon mifta, the Brisa says, Tanaran, mifta shvua, iser shvua. Mifta is a shvua and iser is a shvua. But then, according to Rava, the Brisa immediately backtracks on the Lashon iser and says, but however, iser is not always a shvua. It depends on how it's expressed by the person who's making the vow. If he expresses it in the form of a shvua, then it's a shvua. If he does it in a neder, it's a neder. And therefore he'll be potter from a carbon.
And again, mifta is only a shvua.
Yeah,
Right,
we're not really gonna talk about mifta in this Gemara. We're gonna stick to iser. So Zak Gemara Heicheni Tilai, what gave us the right to say iser can be either a neder or a shvua? Then base isha nidara. If a woman who's married to her husband makes a neder, asra iser al nafsha. There's the lashon iser. She prohibited. She vowed something against herself. B'shvua, and then we say b'shvua. So we placed the iser is placed in the pasuk in between the lashon neder and the lashon shvua. So you see, you have optionality on the lashon iser. It could go either way. Ba'azvul tamayu. Abaya and Rava are going l'shitasam. Again, Abaya said that it's a question of whether mitvis b'shvua is when someone attaches his lashon to something else, whether that's going to be whether you're going to be chayiv on that, a carbon on that or not. And Rava said, no, everyone agrees that that's not It's not going to be mechayev a carbon, and therefore Rava goes a different way in explaining the brisa. Abaye had said the brisa when it said iser, lashon iser, it's mitvus, and mitvus is a question of whether it works to be mechayev a carbon. Rava said no, it has nothing to do with mitvus. Iser does not mean mitvus because everyone agrees mitvus is not going to be chayev a carbon. So the Rava azul tamayu. Abaye and Rava are going l'shitas, and the itma mitvus b'shua Abaye ama kamoitzi shvua mipiv. Abaye says it is like being moitzi shvua mipiv, even though we had said it's a shaila. Abaye is saying it's you can only say it's because moitzi shvua mipiv if you hold it that's a possibility. Rava amalav kamoitzi shvua mipiv dami. Rava says it's not like being moitzi shvua mipiv. It's clear because Rava says definitively, like the reason why he rejected Abaye's pshat is because he says mitvus is not like saying the thing directly, and therefore he had to say his other pshat that it's gonna that the lashon iser is either lashon neder or lashon shvua. Meisvei. So the Gemara asks on Rav Shita that he says lav kamoitzi shvua mipiv dami, that mitvus is mitvus, that attaching your by making what you're making a shvua on dependent on something else, where you say I want today should be like we'll see. Ezu iser amar b'Torah. What's the iser? What is this case of iser that the Torah said? Ha'ima re'al alai shalei oichel basar v'shalei eshte yain. If he says, I'm not going to eat meat and I'm not going to drink wine, ki yom shemeis by aviv, like the day that my father died. The person saying, like my yartzeit, the person saying his yartzeit, he already made a neder that he's not going to eat. He asked himself to eat on his father's yard. So he's saying, I want today to be just like that, also a neder that I'm not going to eat. Kiyam shemeis Pliny, or that the day that some other person died that I also made up not to eat. Kiyam shenerg by Gedalia ben Achikam, like Tzayim Gedalia. Kiyam shera, where I also said I'm not going to eat. Kiyam shera Yushalayim bechurbanah, like the day that I saw that Yerushalayim was destroyed, and therefore I made that day a neder that I'm not going to eat. So I also want today to be like that day. Awesome. That's going to be awesome. For Amar Shmuel, that's only talking about where on that previous day that he's referencing, and he's saying he wants today to be like it, he had already made a neder on that previous day to aser on himself. So Bishlam Avaya Miditavas beneder neder mitfis beneder neder. For the fact that someone who makes a neder and he attached to something else, it's also neder mitfis b'shvua shvua. So we can understand why a person is able. This is hatfasa. This Bryce is saying that someone who's matvis his neder in something else. So the same thing would apply with a shvua that we were clearing about, whether the shvua is treated as if it's an actual shvua and therefore would be mechuyev a carbon. Ella l'Rava kasha, according to Rava, who says according to everyone, mitvus v'shua is not a shvua. We're seeing over here mitvus v'neder is a neder, so mitvus v'shua should be the same thing. Amalach Rava taretz ve'em hachi. Ezu isin neder ha'amar b'Torah. What is the iser of a neder that the Torah says? Ha'ima arei alai shaloi oichel basav v'shaloi eshte yayim kiyam shemeis be'avu kiyam shenerg be'ploni. It's only talking about, let's see the Rashi on this, because this is a fine point. We're not talking about someone who simply says, I want this day to be like Tzayim Gedalia. We're talking about where he's saying, I want this day to be also to me that I'm not allowed to eat. He's only going to be chayiv. This is not a case of mitvus. This is it's a mitvus plus. He's saying first, I want this day to be usher to me. I want it to be a neder on me that I'm not going to eat today, just like I made a neder the other day. In the previous case, the way we had previously understood it, he's just saying, I want today to be like the previous day. But he's not expressing that he wants it today to be a fast day directly. Rav is saying it's talking about where he says directly, I want today to be a fast day, just like the other fast day. But he already said I want today to be a fast day. That which he's saying afterwards, that I want it to be like my father's yard side, or I want it to be like Ksem Gedalia, that's just icing on the cake of that which he already said, I want it today to be a fast day. So again, Rashi says, if he first said that he wants to be Asr, and then he said he wants it to be done something, B'davar hanider, alav, kvar, Ge'al v'az mikra, b'harkam, ezu isin neder, aval mitzvah neder, lav neder, ein chanami, if it's just a pure hatfasa, that's not a neder. V'hechi dami mitzvahs, going shaloi pirish harei alai, shaloi oichel basuf lo yesh yain. It's talking about where he was not typhus, where he did not explicitly say, I'm not going to be able to eat today. We just says the part where he's being matvasid in something else. So very nice. It's handy to have Rashi explain things so much better than I could. V'omer Shmuel. So continuing in the Gemara. So and Shmuel, this is just saying over the Brisa. That's only where he had said the previous day that he already wants that to be Asa.
This little thing we add on. Are we going to what Shmuel says?
Shmuel is saying that it's not enough that he just says I want it to be like that other day, and he happened to not eat. It has to be that on that previous day he had made a neder on that day to answer it on himself.
According to the way we first explained the
Gemara is going to ask in a minute, what's the chiddush of that? Like,
we was explaining that the first way we learned that before Rava's.
No, I mean you could still, I guess even according to Rava, if the previous day was not really asa to you, you would mess up your saying I don't want to be able to eat like the other day. But if that other day wasn't a good hatfasa, it would mess up your direct statement.
Oh no, Rava says I'm not going to eat on this day. Like I still need the dharma on other days. Let's say the previous day was not a good nether to that. Which I imagine not.
But he did say both things. It has to make sense what he's saying. He could backtrack.
Otherwise, what's it adding on?
Yeah.
You didn't say like okay.
So Shmuel says it has to be that previous day he had already made a shvur for that. He had made a neder on that day, answering him. My time, until he makes a neder on something that he had previously made a neder on, that he's being matvasid on something that he made a neder. I'm sorry, no, period. What do you have to tell me if he already made a neder on the previous day and he's saying now I want this day to be asa, that I'm not allowed to eat meat or wine, just like the day of my father's yard site that I made a neder that day. It's pashat. He's like Rashi pshita. Even the time mishum the neder ubahu all of Mises of Malikan. What does it make a difference that it has to do? What it has to do with the reason why he had originally made the shvua? He made a neder, I'm sorry, on the first day, saying that he's not going to eat because it's his father's yard site, and now he's saying I want it to be like the day of my father's yard site. It doesn't have anything to do with that. It has to do with the fact that he had previously said he made a neder on that day, according to Shmuel. So, what is the necessity of? What difference does it make? What the reason why, whether it was that his father died, the day that some other person died, the day that Gedalia, the bottom line is on that day he made a neder that he's not going to eat, and he's saying I want it to be like that day. So the reason for his previous neder is irrelevant. So Zakt Gemara, we need it because of Tzayim Gedalia. Since that day was anyway Tzayim Gedalia, and everyone is mechuyev to fast, and this guy made a neder on top of the fact, and said that Tzayim Gedalia I'm not going to eat. He thought I'm going to add to what the Chachamim said. I'm going to make a neder on myself. Ki neder nami lo have iser. This neder didn't do anything. It didn't add anything because it was anyway not allowed to eat. V'haylav mitvus b'nederhu. And therefore, this is not a mitvus b'neder. This hatfasa is not going to work. Kamashvalan. That's why we had to tell you that even so, since all we need this for is a hatfasa, and it's where, like we said before, like we were talking about, we already said that I don't want to eat today, just like that previous day. So that hatfasa. It's not so necessary that the hatfasa be the most robust. So even though the day that he had previously, that was already assert for him to eat before he was makabel on himself not to eat on Tzom Gedalia, that's enough that he could use it as a hook. He could use the mechanism of hatfasa to refer to that day and assert this current day. Kamashal. Rabbi Yochanan Savala Lahad Rava. Rabbi Yochanan also agrees, like Rava, the Chiyasa Rava Nam Rabbi Yochanan, Mifta Le'eichalach, Iser Le'eichalach Shvua. If someone makes a bitoy that I'm not going to eat, or Iser that I'm not going to eat from you, all these things are a Shvua. And like we said in Abba, so why is this like Rava? Because he's saying Isser lo'eichalach is for sure a shvu. It's not saying like Abaya that left it as a Isser. Some might be a shvu, or it depends on whether or not what you hold. Isser is a lashon of hatfasa, and depends on whether you hold hatfasa is a Isser or not. If they meant to say that Abaya's whole pshat, that it has to do with whether it depends on what the psak is, Lagabe hatfasa, it should have been mentioned. So from the fact that the Ravan just said it like this, that it's a shvua, l'chayra, it's more like Rava and not like Abaya. Okay. New related topic. Kiyaser of Dimi Am Rabbi Yochanan. Now we're going to go through what the psukim are for different types of Shavuos. There's a whole smorgasbord of types of Shavuos, and it's important to know what pasuk tells you the Isser of each Shavuot, because when a person gives a hasra, when someone gives a hasra, you have to tell him what the ashara in the Torah is. So you have to know what pasuk applies to what the person is doing. So, oichel v'loy oichel. Someone says, I'm going to eat today, a shvua that I'm going to eat today, or a shvua that I'm not going to eat today, and then later on in the day, he violates it, either in the case of oichel, he doesn't eat, or where he said loy oichel, and then he does eat. Sheker. What he's been over on is a sheker. He's lying, which is a shvua sheker. V'azarasa mehacha, lo yisishbu b'shmila shoker. The Torah says you shouldn't make a shvua in my name. So this person was meshaker by violating what he had originally said. He made his words into a sheker. He said, I'm going to eat, and he didn't, or he said, I'm not going to eat, and he did. He made his shvua into a shvua sheker. Achalti v'lo achalti, but if he says, I ate or I didn't eat, and at the time that he says this is already not accurate. He either had eaten, he said achalti and he had not eaten, or he said lo achalti and he had eaten. Shav, that's a shua shav. Shav is a lashon of something that's unnecessary. He's saying something that's not feasible. So at the time that he made the shvua, what he's saying was already not true. So it's a shvua shav. You're making a shvua on something that it's impossible to be true, because you already violated it. Torah says you shouldn't say Hashem's name for something that is useless. It's a useless shvua.
Every shvua requires the name of Hashem.
I don't know. Yeah, I see why you're saying that, because the psukim all say the Shem Hashem. I don't know. Could be. Kainamas. Kainam is another word that's used for a lashon neder. Kainam, if you remember back from the Dharam, kainam is a reference to a carbon. So when someone wants to say something is us to me, it's saying it's like it's holy. It's it's what's the word? It's sacred. So he says kainam. So he's saying this is a lashon. So when a person makes a neder, over below yachal dvari. He's over on the pasuk ish ki yider neder Hashem, which is lashon of neder. Yishav hashvua la'eser isa al nafshay la'yachal dvari. Should not violate his words. Kachol ha'yetzer bipiv yasa. He should do as he said. So that is the lashon for neder. Meisvei frekti gemara shav v'sheker echad hein. A vow of shav, a useless vow, and a vow of sheker are one. They're both the same. It's a brisa that says that. So what does that mean? My love, midashav l'shavar, af sheker nami l'shavar. We had said sheker is where a person makes a shvuah in the future, and then he violates his shvuah in the future. But the Gemara is proposing that no, l'chayra, from the fact that we're comparing, we're saying they're both the same. If shav is l'shavar, then sheker also should be l'shavar. Alma achalti v'lo achalti shekeru. So l'chayra it seems to say that sheker is also where he says I ate or I didn't eat and he lied. It's like the Gemara midi ira. No, not necessarily. Just because we're saying there's that echad heim, that sheker and shavar echad, it doesn't mean that they're both l'shavar. Hakad isa v'hakad isa. The shvuah shav is l'shavar and the shvuah sheker is l'haba. But then the Gemara asks, so what is davar echad hein? Umay davar echad hein? In what way are they the same? In what way are they similar? The b'dibar echad nemru, because the Torah said them in the same lashon. Kedetanya, that it was said at the same time, like we said in the Brisa. It's zacha b'shama b'dibar echad nemru. The Rebbeinu Shalom, we have two. The Torah says the Aseres HaDibros two times. One time it says b'lashon zachar, and one time it says it b'lashon shamur, l'gabi the Isser Shabbos, like the tzivui, the commandment of Shabbos, and we say that it means that the Rebbeinu Shalom said both words at the same time. Masha'ein yachal hapel daber, meishein ha'oizin yachal lishmaya. Normally, a mouth can express two words at the same time, and an ear is not capable of hearing two words at the same time. But the Rebbeinu Shalom made it that we were able to, in the Aseres HaDibros, to hear both words at the same time. So we're saying the same thing with sheker and shav. The Rebbeinu Shalom said both words at the same time. In fact, the Gemara, there was a reason why the Rebbeinu Shalom said zacha v'shamar in Shmir Shabbos. Women have the same also are mechuyev to be mekadesh hayom, even though it's since I say shazman grama. Dvar Torah, he says the midaraisa the mechuyev to be mekadesh hayom to have kiddush. The amakra zacha v'shama kol sheyeshna b'shmira yeshna b'schira. We learn out since it's b'dibur echad namru to tell you that the woman, just like the mechuyev in the lois essays of Shabbos, because women are mechuyev in all the lois essays, they're also in mechuyev in the essays because of the Zushtel of Zachar to Shomer. That just like the Mechayiv in Shomer, which is the license, is also Mechayiv in the essays. Bahani Nashi, Hayel Isnu B'Shmiris, Nunami B'Schiris. Since they're Mechayiv in the license essay, they're also Mechayiv in the essay of Shabbos to Mekadesh Shabbos, meaning to make Kiddush. Elahacha Lamai Hilchasa. But over here, when we're saying that we said Shav and Sheker, the Rebbeinu said them both in the same phrase, and that's why it says the shav and sheker are davar echad heim. What are you accomplishing with it? So the Gemara rejects that shot. So we're back to our question. Now, as we said that it doesn't say shav, it doesn't say sheker and shav together to tell you in the dibar echad heim in the brisa to tell you that sheker is also l'shavar. So what is it saying that they're davar echad heim? Ela kashem sheloika al shav, kach loika nami al sheker. It's coming to tell you just like there's a malchus for shav, like we said in the pasuk. Loisisa Hashem lekecha lashav ki lo yinak Hashem esrei yosa Hashem lashav. So too, you're going to be also getting malchus for making a shvua sheker for the shvua la'asid. In fact, the Gemara klap elaya. The chayr should be the other way around. What would be the reason not to get a malchus? Because when someone, all these things are just, it's a lav she'en b'maisa. Person is just saying something. When he makes a shvua, whether it's a shvua sheker or a shvua shav, whether he's making a shvua for the future and then he goes and does it, that's what he did. He's being mechuyev for his shvua, and that's just the dibur. And certainly when he makes a shvua about what he had done in the past, that's not true. Now when he's making a shvua, it's also not. It's only there's no ma'aseh there. But the Gemara asks, klap elaya, we're saying we learn out just like you get a malchus on a shvua shav on something that you had done before, so too you're going to get a malchus for shvua sheker. But it should be the other way around. By shvua sheker, when he's now violating the shvua that he had made, he's actually doing a ma'aseh at that time. He said, I'm not going to eat, and now he's eating. But when he's making a shvua about what he had done in the past, at the time he makes the shvua, there's no ma'aseh. The ma'aseh is long over and done with. So it should be the other way around. So you switch it around. Just like you get malchus on sheker, so too you'll get malchus on a shvua shav.
Yeah, and how do you know that you shouldn't be get malchus on the past as wife?
Because when you're making a shvua now, what's the ma'aseh? You're not doing anything right now.
What do you mean my stuff?
Lav shem ma'aseh and like love. As we're going to see, the Gemara is going to talk about that more. No, I'm saying, but we have this all the time. There's a general rule is something that there's no ma'aseh. So one could argue, but one might say that, but a lav that comes when he makes a shvua that I'm not going to do something, I'm not going to eat today, and then he eats. So one could that's more of a ma'aseh. What?
What about the opposite case?
Okay, we'll get to that. When he says shaloi eichel, then yeah, we'll get.
No, he says eichel, and he
doesn't eat.
Doesn't eat. That's also option. So what's the difference between past tense or future?
Right. High lav al high lav. In fact, the Gemara pshita high lav al high lav. I might l'chayra both of them are lavs, so you should be mechuyev malchus on both. Malda temek the amalei papa labaya lo yinaka klal. The pasuk says Zocher L'sisa Hashem Hashem Alekecha Lashav Ki Lo Yinaka Hashem Esher. The Bereshit will not forgive you, will not purify you from what you've done. Maybe Lo Yinaka Klal. Maybe that it means that you shouldn't get any kind of retribution. You're not going to even get the opportunity to get malchus and get a kapara for what you've done. Kamash V'lan Kedushanule. That's what he says. No, it doesn't mean like Abaye is going to answer to Rav Papa. He's going to answer that's not true. Lo Yanaka doesn't mean klal. It just means that the Rebbeinu Shalom is not going to be Yanaka you, but you're still going to be able to get malchus. Okay, we're going to leave this for here, and we'll get to the Iba Yisema, which is going to be another version of this same teretz.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Have a